We saw all these people behind the fence, looking out, hanging on the wire, and looking out because they were anxious to know who was coming in. But I will never forget the shocking feeling that human beings were behind this fence like animals, and we were going to also lose our freedom and walk inside of that gate and find ourselves cooped up there. When the gates were shut, we knew that we had lost something very precious, that we were no longer free. Mary Sakamoto. At 7:48 a.m. on December 7, 1941, the United States was attacked by the Empire of Japan at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. On December 8th, President Roosevelt addressed the nation, asking Congress to declare war on the Japanese Empire. As soon as war was declared, many Japanese immigrants were targeted by the government because they were believed to be spies. Their bank accounts were frozen, and they were followed and questioned. Japanese Americans faced discrimination and racial prejudice from the very communities that they were born into, although many were American-born and had never visited Japan. On February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, authorizing the removal of any or all people from military areas as deemed necessary or desirable. The military defined the West Coast, which was the home of many Japanese immigrants and Americans, as a military area. 120,000 Japanese people were given only a few days to decide what to do with their houses, businesses, and possessions. Many families decided to sell their belongings at a loss. Some rented their houses or businesses, while others gave possessions away to friends or non-Japanese family members. Japanese Americans took whatever they could carry and gathered at assembly halls. Each family was assigned an identification number. Many believe that this was the government's way to dehumanize them. Families were then loaded up into trucks, vans, and buses and were transported to one of 17 temporary assembly centers throughout the West. These centers were located at fairgrounds, racetracks, and similar areas. By November of 1942, families were then moved to permanent relocation centers or internment camps, where they would live for the next 4 to 5 years under constant surveillance by armed guards. Internment camps were built throughout the country. The government's goal was to create a camp that was self-sufficient and able to provide the basic necessities to the Japanese people. The problem was that these camps were built in arid or swamp-like environments, which made it extremely difficult for the Japanese people to farm and gather food. Temperatures were hard to adjust to for the people coming from the West Coast. They were very hot in the summer and very cold in the winter. Around 20 people lived in assigned barracks. If you had a group of at least 8 people, you were assigned a room to stay together. There is very little privacy within and outside the barracks. This took a toll on families that were accustomed to a life filled with privacy. Life in the barracks is pretty simple. Many individuals took jobs where they can earn anywhere from $12 to $19 per month, depending on their qualifications. They took jobs as construction workers, teachers, doctors, and any other needed position. The Japanese people were not allowed to leave the camp. If they were caught trying to escape, they would be shot on the spot and killed. There were guard posts throughout the perimeter that monitored the Japanese and their behavior. As the tide of the war began to turn in the United States' favor, many Japanese were able to leave the camps and help with the war effort. They were able to farm, manufacture goods, and even attend college. By 1944, the population of the internment camps was reduced by half. By 1947, all of the camps were closed and the Japanese people were allowed to leave, and they could attempt to resume their lives before being taken. Many Japanese had begun all over because they lost or sold all of their possessions. Between 1942 and 1947, more than 120,000 Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans were held in internment camps. It was believed that the Japanese people were not loyal to the United States, although not a single Japanese American or Japanese immigrant was charged with espionage or treason throughout the war. This action is considered one of the greatest violations of civil rights in the history of the United States. These individuals were targeted based off of their race and their heritage. although many of them were natural-born United States citizens. By 1988, the United States Civil Liberties Act granted the remaining 82,000 Japanese internees a payment of $20,000 and an apology. It cannot be forgotten what the United States did based off of fear and assumptions, and we cannot let this happen again.